Maybe you have a basic idea of what constitutes a system from what you know of the natural world. The Earth's natural systems include a variety of water, air, and land systems, often working together to create more complex systems, such as weather systems and ecosystems. An atom is an example of a small, simple system made of smaller particles. Living entities are more complex systems made of many smaller systems, such as digestive and nervous systems in animals, or root and shoot systems in plants. And together, many entities and elemental systems make up the even more complex planetary biosphere system. And many planets and a sun together make up a solar system, and on and on and on in complexity. Some examples of man-made systems include utilities, financial and governmental systems, and communication systems. So we know we have a good understanding of the systems part of systems thinking. Now let's focus on the thinking portion. A rule of thumb you can use for basic systems thinking tools is DSRP. D is for distinctions. A distinction is when you decide that this thing is not this other thing. You are creating a boundary. A less helpful distinction is made when we decide one group is us and another group is them. S is for systems. Systems are parts of things or ideas that together make up a whole. In fact, the whole process of thinking involves splitting things up or lumping them together so we can understand them. R is for relationships. Every relationship consists of action and a reaction, the mutual effect of two or more things on one another. Relationships include communication, collaboration, and feedback. P is for perspectives. Everything or idea can be looked at from more than one point of view. Your point affects the view. You may believe you have identified the main problem, but from another point of view, an even bigger problem can be found. From these tools, we can follow rules to guide how we think about things. A distinctions rule is that any idea or thing can be distinguished from any other idea or thing. The systems rule is that any idea or thing can be split into parts or lumped into a whole. The relationships rule is that any idea or thing can relate to any other thing or idea. And the perspectives rule is that any thing or idea can be viewed from one perspective point or another. What is the difference between systems thinking and the traditional method of linear thinking used by society today? Linear thinking uses traditional analysis, the process of breaking a complex topic or substance into smaller parts in order to try to control each part independently, believing that improving each part results in an improvement of the whole. Each smaller and smaller element is examined and isolated for study and experiment. This approach does not consider the relationships between each individual part. If you only address each individual part without understanding and considering its relationship to another part, you will end up with unintended consequences, often making your initial problem worse. Next is linear causality. Linear thinking, as the name implies, is linear, assuming causes and effects occur in simple, connected, direct lines. But the reality of all systems is that causes and effects occur within a tangled network, and the connections are instead non-linear, circular, and often non-obvious. Assigning responsibility. Linear thinking proposes that most problems are caused by uncontrollable external factors, when in fact most problems are caused by adjacent groups working myopically and individually on their small parts of the whole, while undermining and reversing their neighbor's progress. Fallacy of success. The most counterproductive characteristic of linear thinking is the belief that success of a solution in the short term indicates long-term and continued success. In fact, due to unintended consequences, which are often delayed years and sometimes even generations, short-term solutions often make a problem much, much worse. To get a better understanding of unintended consequences, let's take a look at a well-known real-world example. During British colonial rule of India, the British were disturbed by the indigenous population of wild cobras. In an attempt to cull the population of cobras, the British government created an incentive program wherein, if a local were to bring in a dead cobra, they would receive financial compensation. The Indians did not share the British aversion to cobras and quickly saw the program as a way to make money by breeding the snakes. By the time the program ended, the cobra population had significantly increased. This case study is so infamous an example, the phrase cobra effect is now synonymous with the concept of unintended consequences. When we don't consider relationships or look at things from different points of view, our actions can have surprising results, often the opposite of what we were expecting. Systems thinking is a way to discern patterns so that we can better predict outcomes. Nowhere more so than public administration is prediction a crucial element. Our ability to predict the outcomes of public programs and policy based on our understanding of the patterns of human organization is the key to successfully improving lives and communities. How do we put systems thinking principles into action in public administration? Because budgets and resources are won and allocated individually, most public agencies are designed with little thought to their living borders, the edges where one agency's program butts up against or transgresses into another, ultimately affecting the other program's course, often in unintended and negative ways. This resulting structure of individual departments with sometimes conflicting agendas is chaotic, irregular, and ultimately unstable. If instead clear lines of communication and collaboration could be established across disciplines, agencies, and programs, always considering relationships, these borders could instead help to provide stability. All organizations would benefit by transforming into more open systems that consider the far-reaching consequences of each action. This kind of structure would promote decentralization, reconfiguration, and increased information flow. It would encourage questions and reveal solutions that cannot be seen when components are looked at individually. It would also allow faster response to rapid and unexpected changes, help to more quickly identify and manage risks stemming from dependencies between programs, improve communication, and eliminate silos, while increasing awareness of connections and interdependence. Ultimately, this would lead to services and results better designed to meet the long-term needs of the public. To ensure this process of thinking in systems will endure indefinitely, and to allow the many interconnected agencies to continually benefit from collaboration, ongoing praxis is required. Praxis is a way of gauging the success of a system through a cycle of carefully considering relationships while challenging previous assumptions. This is then followed by taking action based on real-world observations. Praxis is the constant testing of one's own ideas and practices through practical exercises, and then analyzing effectiveness for long-term success. Through testing and many other types of feedback, the idea or practice is then adjusted as needed and the cycle begins again. Praxis should be exercised infinitely in order to keep a system on course and always improving. The only way to institute a change in our approach to public administration is for us all to begin a change in our own thinking. This change will have to start inside society, each citizen considering their own actions and how they affect all others. Only once we all become systems thinkers will we be able to see connections, make accurate predictions, and therefore avoid unintended consequences. By revising our long-used linear mental models through systems thinking, we can all influence the use of systems thinking for the public good.